Welcome back to the French Rugby Podcast with me, Tim Groves, ex-Scotland international and adopted Frenchman Johnny Beattie's here, former Clermont and France hooker Benjamin Kayser's here, and we've got a full lengthy analysis of the two classic all-French Champions Cup quarterfinals to come. Haven't we, guys? Do you enjoy them?
It's the celebration of how good French rugby can be if they decide to take Europe seriously.
Great they're there, but real difference in the standards of the game. They were ridiculous games.
Well, let's chat about the two all-French quarterfinals then, because no tries in either, and they weren't the best advert, as we were saying, for French rugby or European rugby, were they? Bordeaux Racing was particularly poor, wasn't it, Benji? What happened?
I don't know if it was that poor, but to be honest, it was racing without Finn Russell, without Henri Chavancy, without Virimi Vakatawa, right? So, I mean, when you have Kurt Nebil, and I think it was Clément Sachs that plays in the center, I was like, all right, this is a rotated, a bit random sort of racing team. But they did well, to be fair. They did well. They did well in just the grinder type of team who's playing, away from home and wants to sneak in a little win. So you could tell two teams that were playing with ils jouaient avec le frein à main. They were playing with a bit of a handbrake, because they didn't want anybody to be able to challenge them. In the end, I think there was one guy, probably one player, and you'll know pretty quick who I'm talking about, who lived up to his standards, and it was Mathieu Jalibert. Because not only did he kick the winning penalty, yes, of course, thanks to Tamefuna, which is cute because
yes.
he left racing pretty annoyed. And you could tell he almost did that contest and then turned around, looked at Laurent Travers and wanted to tell him to go, stuff it up himself, pretty much. But it was good after he almost took the life out of Kurt Nebil. Kurt Nebil had a tank that just, drove right on top of his head. But good, there was no big issues there. But Mathieu Jalibert, I thought during the whole game, he was the only one actually playing with a bit of intent, playing with a bit of full-onness or whatever, whereas all the others were playing with a bit of a handbrake. So not a great game, but listen, not all knockout rugby is always going to be extraordinary. You could tell it was two teams who were playing with a bit of added pressure because they didn't want to fuck up, basically.
I think for the first 30 minutes, not one team made it to the opposition 22. Like it was just, there was nothing happening. It was a sort of grind in the middle of the pitch, people knocking over penalties. And look, it wasn't the best advert. Like we said, the quality of the rugby has moved on. It's kicked on massively in France over the past 2-3 seasons. And that was a little bit of, they're almost playing with a wee bit of fear, like you said, Benji. You could tell they didn't want to make mistakes. They were feeling each other out, and it just never really burst into life.
I reckon in that one, so Laurent Travers, the coach, was saying how disappointed he was. But when you see the teams that he lined up, I think he almost tried to squeeze out some positive about saying that he's got some youngsters. So Kamisha came off, but Teddy Bobigny, who is probably France's number 5 hooker, something like that. So he's not far from the French team. He's been picked a few times, to Nations Cup and all that. Did well. There's Jordan Joseph, who finally, the big number 8, who's double world champion, he was 17 or 18 or something. Then he was put into the under 20s and then won the World Cup with them. He's an absolute phenomenon, and everybody's sort of waiting for the phenomenon to finally deliver on the big stage, right? And I think for the last 4, 5, 6 weeks, he has been. And I think Laurent Travers was basically trying to find the glass half full of saying, yes, we're gutted. But with the circumstances of missing all those X, Y, and Z players, it would have been complicated anyhow. It is a weird year. Listen, let's not face it. I mean, look, Sale were playing a quarterfinal of La Rochelle, having won one game. They didn't even win one pool game. You know what I mean? It is a bloody weird year of European rugby. So that's why all the boys, I think they're very happy, but they're not that disappointed either. And Laurent Travers was trying to say, right, at least we got some youngsters to come through, to deliver, and to show that if you're going to have to count on them for the future.
Do you think that that's their last bite with this sort of group of players they have? Like you think about Donna Karai and Anthony Klaassen, Zibo, Chavancy coming to the end of a cycle. You talk that Kolbe, the young tight head that came on, we talked about him earlier in the season, like loads of potential. But do you think they've been in finals rugby the past couple of seasons? They sort of missed their opportunity. Do you think it's finished for them now? Because they're going to go through transition. There's lots of young kids coming through that are exciting. But do you think this year was maybe their last year to try and make a tilt for that title? Do you think they could do it next year? They got enough quality in the squad? Or do you think it's going to be a rebuild slowly over the next couple of seasons?
Except, yes, where I agree with you, and I'm tempted to say that it's going to be a rebuild because there are super young, homebred talent that's coming through. Colin Gardelou said, Kolbe, the tight head, Bobigny, Palou, the back row.
He's great as well.
Diallo, the number 6, the replacement. Jordan Joseph, the 8. I mean, there's an absolute shit ton of guys. There's that young number 9. I can't remember. He was with the under-20s, who's going to be the next new hot thing. Who comes from Brittany, who comes from Van. Nolan Le Garec, that's his name. And there's loads and loads of them. But Racing are the only club who basically, we want to pick a center. Yeah, we're going to pick Gael Fico. And that's who they just signed for next year.
There's your rebuild.
Mate, so exactly, your rebuild is going to be massively fast-tracked.
And Benji, you feared for Clermont, but they were in the game until right near the end. Mate, and I've got to ask you about your mate Morgan Parra, because he's coming for a bit of flack over here. It's not obviously not his fault that Clermont lost, but what about the kick at the end? Did he rush it, or what happened?
I 150% rushed it. To be honest, it's not like they had the kick to the win, right? They had to kick it, receive the kickoff, do 80 meters or 70 meters to score the winning try with the conversion to then beat Toulouse. Okay, so people should shut up from time to time and realize that it wasn't down to him. If anything, they should say, well, Morgan Parra has been, listen, he's one of my best mates and I rate him highly. He hasn't played very well this year, but against Wasp, he wins that game for Clermont.
Yeah,
with his experience, his leadership, and the way that he controlled the tempo, he did really well. That game, to be honest, so my heart was with Clermont. My brain was telling me, wow, red alerts, red zone everywhere, because Toulouse are just going to trash them. And then it's chucking it down, so the things were a little bit weird. They properly gave their best, I thought. They really, really played with a lot of intensity. They gave absolutely everything they had. The young 7, Alex Fischer, Fritz Lee always being there, Camille Lopez getting injured after 6 minutes, and Tim Nai Williams still did what he could. George Morla is a beast of a human being. Damien Penaud, you can still get him. Kotaro Matsushima, I'm done questioning how good he is. He can be freakishly good. And Morgan Parra had a really, really good game. So it's just a matter of Toulouse, mate. It's more that I want to actually remember. You talk about end of cycle. There's clearly an end of cycle of Clermont, because Franck is going to leave, because some leadership roles are maybe going to be wobbling, and there's going to be a lot of transformation in the summer. Correct, but Toulouse, mate, I more want to, now that they've beaten my heart team.
You're backing them.
I can sort of admit how good they are. It annoys the hell out of me. Don't get me wrong. I'm super jealous, and inside me there's almost some hatred, but when they're good, bloody hell, they're good.
Well, we can bring someone else into the conversation now, who was front and centre in that game at the weekend and broke Benji's heart as Toulouse beat Clermont to make it through to the Champions Cup semi-finals. Toulouse centre Zack Holmes joins us. How are you, Zack?
Good, thanks for having me on, boys.
Thanks for coming on. We were just chatting about the games, the 2 all-French games at the weekend. Not the best spectacles, but Clermont-Toulouse certainly better than Bordeaux Racing, according to the guys. So what was it like to play him?
Yeah, it was a strange game. I guess playing against Clermont quite a few times and how we want to play. It was I guess not frustrating, but it was quite slow. It was quite we were both trying to play similar with the conditions, control field position, try and get ascendancy up front. Fortunately, our forwards probably got on top with our set piece, and I think that's what got us over the line.
In terms of, if you get through this next round, I'm sure we'll get onto top 14 in a bit, but if you do get through this next round of games, who would you rather face? Would you rather be up against your old team La Rochelle, or would you rather play against Leinster?
For me personally, I'd rather play La Rochelle in the final. I think even for the club as well, for them to beat Leinster in the semi and make the final, I think that would be quite huge. And Leinster's been watching that Leinster Exeter game. They were, very impressive. I think, La Rochelle at home, it's a difficult task. And I think it's just a shame they don't have supporters in there, because that would make it even tougher for Leinster. But I would. It's hard. There's always going to be a special place in my heart at La Rochelle. Gave me the opportunity to come over here and play, and I still are quite close with quite a few of the boys. So I hope they can make the final. It'll be fun to play against them in the final, hopefully.
You've been in France for 6 years now, I think, Zack. So just give us an insight into how much you're loving life over there. And you mentioned kind of when you first came out over the sort of culture clash, I guess, from what you were used to in Australia. So how are you finding it now, and how much do you love it over there?
yeah, I've really embraced it. I've really enjoyed my time. It's gone really quick. Like when you say it's almost been 6 years. I'm actually going for my nationality. I've got my test next week. So yeah, going for my French passport. Yeah, and I want to stay in France. I've still got another season next, but I'm doing my BPJEPs to get my coaching stuff done as well. So yeah, I want to stay in France if I can, play out my career here, and then hopefully there's an opportunity to get into coaching or whatnot in France. That would be my ideal. But yeah, my fiance really enjoys it here as well. It's been tougher for her, not being able to do as much with COVID and stuff. But I think it's brought the families, especially the foreigners, closer here, because we've had to, we haven't been able to go home, or no one's been able to come. So it's definitely brought the foreign people here, and we've all supported each other with that. But I'm loving it in France. Want to stay here as long as I can. Hopefully finish my career here.
Any tips from either of you two for Zack on the citizenship test?
Yeah.
Study, mate. You know that little booklet they give you? Study. It's like that was, I took it every day on the bus. I'd take it on the bus and ask the French boys. They didn't know any of the answers to the questions. So if you can get the ones they don't know, then you're in. Like questions about the philosophers from like the 19th century, Benji, all this stuff, you'll have to help them out with, but it's all been forgotten. But mate, there's so much. But that booklet is gold dust. Get into that. Get Safari. Get Googling, and get studying, because it's hard. Mate, that interview I did mine in Bordeaux. It was an hour and a half on culture, economics, politics, geography. It was intense. And then my wife went in afterwards, and she was 30 minutes.
Yeah, I've tried to book the one that is apparently easier, but we'll see next week.
Good luck, mate.
Yeah.
So there's more than one citizenship test. You can go for the easy version or the hard one.
There's two different ones, but they say one. There's two different companies run it, and they say one's apparently easier, but
there's the south of France nationality. You know, it doesn't mean much. It's just that you're mega. That means that you're mega chilled. It means that you're mega chilled and relaxed about your life. That's about it.
You can have to give up your French passport now, Benji. Now you're in England. You have to give it up, or do they let you hold on to it?
Fuck no. Listen, I'm keeping that passport close to me. And I tell you what, I'm gonna be the passport police. Basically, if you take a French passport because you love France and you want to stay in France as long as you want, I am all for that. That's extraordinary, because the reason why you boys stay so long is because you fall in love with the country, the culture, the this and that. What fucks me off is if somebody takes a passport and then fucks off away from France, right? But if you want to stay, please do.
I was going to say, sod the citizenship test next week, Zack. You've passed. Benji's given you a seal of approval.
Sweet. Yeah.
Got the green light.
I'll put that through to the prefecture.
Mate, we had a bit of chat from one of your teammates who's been on the podcast before. So Jerome Kaino was saying, can we ask you why you still insist on wearing your Crocs around the city centre of Toulouse? He's got a real bee in his bonnet about your Crocs. Can you let us know why, if you're that big on French culture, fashion, and good wine and drink, why you are still wearing your Crocs? That's the question that he sent in.
I took inspiration from old forwards coach Regis Son, who used to wear them proudly at the stad. I actually only just pulled him out for the first time last week. I got a bit of a knock on my heel, so I was like, it's a bit. I'll just put the Crocs on because I didn't really want to put shoes, and Jesus,
the grief.
Some of the comments I was getting last week was enormous, but they're very comfortable. If you haven't tried them, Johnny, I definitely recommend them.
You know, I tried to buy a pair, and my wife was like, "If you buy them, I'm going to divorce you." That was how strongly she felt.
We speak a lot on here about the kind of French culture, the coaching over there, all sorts of aspects on and off the field. But if there was one thing you could say that you've loved most about France, whether it's the wine, the food, just anything, what would you say? What's the thing you love most about France?
Oh, well, the wine would definitely be up there. I think I've been in Toulouse. I've sort of been going to Bordeaux a few times, and I'm getting married just next to Saint-Emilion. So that actually has been something I had no interest in before I came to France, and now I've got way too many bottles that I actually don't know where to put them. But I think just being in France and just being able to travel around, not just travel around Europe, but just see other places in France, and just Toulouse is a good place in terms of where it is. There's so much around. Just to go to towns like Albi and Montauban and just little towns and just go for the day and just have a look around and experience it and just things like that, like things you can't really do in Australia.
What do you reckon, Benji? He's got his passport, eh? Easily.
If you repeat exactly what you said, but when you speak about wine, just sneak a little case under the table.
Yeah.
Just discreetly, just push one there, and you've
got enough to give away.
Well, thanks ever so much for coming on, Zach, and good luck against Castres this weekend. Good luck against Bordeaux next month, and more importantly, good luck in the citizenship exam next week.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys. Thank you. Yeah, I'll get back to studying, I think. So, yeah, got me a little bit worried now, Johnny.
Oh, mate, you'll be sweet.
Thanks, guys.
The one French team we haven't spoken about yet in the Champions Cup quarterfinals is La Rochelle. And I'm going to start putting some money on your predictions, I think, Benji, because even Johnny didn't agree that they were going to smoke Sale, but they did.
Mate, I'm really impressed by them. Because Sale actually, funnily enough, for the first 25 minutes, put them under a lot of pressure. They didn't actually allow them to create the way or to dominate the game like maybe they thought they were going to. Obviously, they've got some very good players. Curry, all the Safas that they get, Faf de Klerk and the Dupree's brothers and all that, and they obviously have got some quality. But then La Rochelle was struggling a little bit, and I think again, like I mentioned, the reason why Toulouse are so good, and I reckon they really are strong contenders to it, is because they've got plan A, B, and C, and it's the first time that I saw La Rochelle have a plan B, basically, where they have those big units that are capable of carrying the ball. Will Skelton, Winnie Antonio, and all that. They've got a graft behind. Brice Dulin obviously been very, very instrumental coming back in and stuff like that, but. They've got some serious capacity to. I mean, when's the last time we spoke about Victor Vito? Everybody's forgotten about him. He's only a World Cup winner for the ABs. He's absolute class, and he had a monster of a game on Saturday. And so basically, you just when you forget about how good a guy like him can be, that means the depth of the squad is extraordinary. When you forget that actually, they can have a plan B. They can kick the ball. They can have a good strategic eye about there was a rush defense of Sale, or we'll try to, instead of, playing the small meter after meter thing that they normally do and try to stay up on our feet and offload, then we'll kick to the corner, see how he goes. I thought they played really smart. In the end, they completely blew them out of the park because they overpowered them. And they did that really well while still keeping disciplined, while still sort of biting the bullet at certain moments, and that's why I was really impressed by them. Now, the only problem, but of course it's semi-finals, you're never going to play against any bozos from around the corner. They got Leinster, and Leinster against Exeter, I was very, very impressed. 14-0 down after 10 minutes. Johnny Sexton gone. And the way that they came back, wow, they can chuck the ball around. So I think Winnie Antonio, Will Skelton, all the big fellas, they're going to have Ventolin and triple shot of oxygen masks behind them, because, wow, they're going to have to cover a lot of ground. Oh, mate, yeah, there's going to be a lot of that. But then again, that's John O'Gibbs, Ronan O'Gara, they know that. They're not going to be surprised by that. So they'll prepare a plan for, I don't know. We need to play 30 minutes, come off, come back, whatever it is, and they'll have a plan behind it.
I think that the image that summed that game up for me was Faf de Klerk's face. So as he came off the pitch at 60,
he was angry, yeah?
Just complete dejection. Like his team had just been bullied in every single sense, like physical, smart, aggressive, like every single facet of the game, they smashed them. So I was massively impressed. And the more I watch, the more I'm impressed by Gibbs and O'Gara, like as a coaching team and what they do, how they've got their team playing. They're insane. Like they're organized, aggressive, the speed of the ball they generate and they play with. I love the way they alternate the point of contact as well. It's not just about Skelton, like being a big, like tip-ons, balls out the back, shifting the point of contact, keeping defenses guessing. Mate, they're a joy to watch. And some of the thought into what, like stupid stuff like kick chase. We just heard Zach talking about Toulouse, how they alternate, but the way they pressurize Sale's fullback made him look silly, put him under pressure, knock-ons, turned over, time and time again. Mate, it was really impressive. I absolutely loved watching them. They're clearly well coached, inventive, and they execute at a really high level. And I think that if you're going to take that next step and go and win something like this competition, that's what you need. I think a lot of French teams over the year have had that power, had that pace, but they haven't had that next level and maybe the top 2 inches that were functioning, and they just absolutely clicked. They were insane to watch. I absolutely loved them.
So 3 French teams into the Champions Cup semi-finals, which is obviously something we'll celebrate. But why do you think it has been such a vintage year? Is it the fact that kind of Bordeaux and La Rochelle, who aren't historically big European names, their projects are kind of coming to fruition at a similar time, or why has it been such a vintage year for the French sides?
I think, to be honest, for me, it's more than one thing. There's also been some points that were awarded to a lot of teams that were, listen, it's a random year, right? There's those eights of finals when they put their hand in the bag, right? You're gonna come through, and it is very random. But I think you've got it spot on. It's when everybody decides to go flat out at it. Even Lyon, for once, took it relatively seriously, but they fell in Exeter because that was just out of reach. But you're right. It's La Rochelle, Bordeaux finally deciding to say, right, we actually going to seriously want to challenge, test ourselves, represent proudly the country and or the area and go full on at it. And that's when the result is different. We're not going to learn anything by saying or teach anything to anyone by saying that the top 9 or 10 clubs of top 14, bloody hell, of course they've got the quality to be in Champions Cup, and all of them could do some serious damage. So that's never been the issue. The issue is that when Castres, how the hell do Castres win two boucliers in the last 6-7 years, maybe, Johnny, something like that? And how come they've never even challenged anyone in Champions Cup? Because they don't care about it. They play one game, you lose once at home, fini, pack it up, go. And that's one thing that La Rochelle didn't do, that Bordeaux didn't do, that Racing don't do anymore, and that Clermont and Toulouse have never done, basically.
I think there's several different elements. I completely remember, like, Fabien Galtier did not care. That the pressure was top 14, finish high in the top 14, Brennus. That was it. If there's a choice to be made, and that's actually a bit of a tangent, but that's where I think Montpellier have actually maybe shot themselves in the foot by winning their game and getting through to the next round of the Challenge Cup, because now they've got that added side pressure. When they need to focus on the top 14, they could go down. That could still happen. So, look, absolutely, it's been a shift in focus. I think COVID, no crowds, winning away from home always helps. But generally for me, the standard of top 14 has shifted. The past 2-3 seasons, it's just gone up a level. And now they're competing, if not dominating, British and Irish sides in a way that they haven't done in the past. So it's really exciting. And look, we've mentioned before, but an Urios getting into Bordeaux, they've had massive budget for years, but never quite clicked, never quite been decent on the field consistently. Christophe's a great coach. You look at what La Rochelle are producing, well-organized team, world-class players. You mentioned Vito, but we didn't mention Aldrit or Gourdon, either side of him, who've been phenomenal as well. So look, there's loads of little things that are clicking at the right time for French rugby, and loads of these projects that have been bubbling away for years are now kicking on to the next level. And that's where it's so exciting. So to have 3 of the 4 sides, potential winners being French, is tremendous.
And just briefly before we go, a couple of big derby games in the top 14 this weekend. We mentioned one of them with Zach, the other, Clermont-Brive, Benji. Can you give us an idea of what that game's like to play in, what it means to the players, the fans?
So 170 Ks between the two. They call it a local derby, which is not. It's 2 different areas. But for some reason, they've built up this thing, and the fans believe it, and the players believe it, and everybody believes it, that Clermont is the rich, and it's the London Wasps, Leicester Tigers at the time. And Brive have got the real values, and they're the real people, and we represent the village, and you guys are overpaid, smug, arrogant little shits, basically. Whereas, have you ever been to Clermont? Clermont is a hardworking industrial town. Nothing to do. It's not the capital, right? But they've painted it this way. I mean, to the point where it's funny. It's the first time that you would rock up with a Clermont bus, and they would have guys with, how do you call it, fumigène, Johnny? Those cracking things that the fans can have in the football stands,
like flares.
Yes, there you go.
Brive, there's probably 18,000 or 20,000 maximum population in Brive, and the guy is cracking, those smoke things before. I'm like, chill out, mate. Come on, it's rugby, and you were in Brive. You're not in the middle of the Bronx, and that just spiked up. I mean, I've had my only very not humiliating, but very sad moment on a rugby pitch. Was 2-3 years ago, after beating Brive in Brive, and there was a guy singing the most horrendous song about my mother that I'm not going to but yelling it full tilt, that I almost lost my shit. So I was going through, the security guy pulled me out, and then the really nice captain for Brive, Saïd Iresh, who was a youngster coming through Stade Francais. And while I was there, I've got a really good relationship, came to get me and stuff. He's like, just forget about him. There's always one idiot. I said, yeah, but I'm not pissed off about him. He was drunk and an idiot, and he's got a very, very sad life to come out with some horrendous stuff like he did. But there's nobody, there was kids next to him. Nobody taps him on the shoulder, be like, shut the fuck up. What are you saying? There was none of that. So it's a massive derby. I think it makes people lose their heads because they've got the Brive are basically convinced, or the Brive fans, are convinced that Clermont don't respect them, and it's the big against the small, the rich against the poor, the lucky against the unlucky, whatever. In the end, it's just a matter of Brive have always played with a lot of spirit, a lot of passion, a lot of gut. And that's what they're doing this year. And to be honest, and they're really doing a fantastic season considering the small budget and the small area that they're doing. And the epiphany of that is Saidi Resh, the number 6 for them. He's playing with his heart in his sleeves, and he's a phenomenal guy. And so Clermont would be tested on that. But like I said to Zach, I thought they really played well in terms of putting some dog into the fight against Toulouse. And I hope they bring that against Brive because they're going to need it.